And it's funny, Fernanda was asking for a topic for the prayer, like what should I pray for? And some of the stuff that she touched in the prayer, it's what we're going to see tonight. So I don't know if you've been before here with me talking, but I've been doing a series of the Spirit's book, going chapter by chapter. So that's what we're going to be seeing tonight, the Spirit's book. It's a little bit echoey, yeah. So feel free to participate. If you have any question, if I say something that we don't understand, you can raise your hand and we'll try to understand. I cannot guarantee that I'll answer everything. I do not know everything, even though I want to. But I'm bringing up the Spirit's book and we'll just discuss what it's presented in there. And I just want to share with you what I'm learning in this journey. And so I like to give a little bit of information about the Spirit's book. Hold on, it's not working. But anyways, I like giving information about the Spirit's book. We're going to see it a little bit later. The version that we have printed right now, it's the second edition of the Spirit's book. And the second edition came out in 1860. The first edition was 1857. And it pretty much doubled in question, doubled in information. Anyways, I think he's moving. You're moving, right? Yeah, okay. So the book is divided into 4 parts. Depending on the version that you have, it will say parts or books. And I already presented for the first part, there's 4 chapters. And I think I presented like 5 times. I had to divide one of them. And, don't see. You think it's a battery? Yeah, the laser, it's not working either. Okay, awesome. So right now, we're going to be talking about the spirit world. This is going to be the second chapter. It's going to be the Incarnation of Spirits. The first chapter was called The Spirits. And it got divided into 3 presentations. We talked about the order of the spirits, the scale, and the progression of the spirits was the main thing of that chapter. And I'm going to be referring a little bit about it today. And actually, previous chapter, the 4th chapter on part 1, which is called the Vital Principle, I really recommend you guys to go back. It's not going to change much because we're going to stay on the topic of that chapter. However, I strongly recommend you to go look for that information yourself as well. Hold on, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this part, it has 11 chapters. And like I said, right now I'm on the second one, the Incarnation of the Spirits, which is going to involve, it's going to be divided into 3 parts: the purpose of incarnation, the soul, and materialism. There is 17 questions in there. 2 for the purpose of incarnation. Thank you. And 2 for materialism. So that leaves us 13 questions about the soul. And again, feel free to raise your hand and talk. If I read something and explain something that it's hard to understand, I'm here first. Yes.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
That's the second?
Oh no, this is the first one. This is going to be this chapter. Like I said, those are all chapters on the second book. The first one, it got divided into 3. This one is going to be a whole, just one presentation for the Incarnation of Spirits. There's only 17 questions in there. It's from question 132 to question 148. So let's get into that. Okay, question 132. What is the purpose of spirit incarnation? Answer. God imposes incarnation as a tool to reach perfection. For some, it is a means of making amends, while for others, it is a mission. Every spirit must experience the difficulties of physical existence to reach perfection. Therein lies their atonement. Incarnation also requires a spirit to contribute to the work of creation. To fulfill this purpose, spirits assume physical bodies in harmony with the material state of each world to accomplish the mission that have been appointed to them by God. Through these missions, they contribute to the general good while also achieving their own advancement. So this question is pretty much the main thing. What's the purpose of our incarnation? Like, Kardec goes straight to that question. Like, there's no doubt about the question. So one thing that I like to point out, that this is not the question, the answers that we get, it's for spirits that are in a higher level than us, based on the criteria that Kardec used to get those answers. And one of them was to ask the question to different groups, Spiritist groups, sent to them, groups that didn't know each other. They would send the answers, so he would compile, and that's how we got the Spirit's book. So this is one of the answers. What is the purpose of the incarnation? So we saw in the previous chapter, there's one thing that I'll mention, that there's a progression that we get, that all of us, we're going to go through all the stages, all different classes that is presented in there. So we all going to go through that, and each of those experiences, each stage that we're at, there's something that we're going to learn in that. And we're going to learn in the physical world. Okay? And one thing that I like a lot in here is that we see some people saying that we're co-creators, right? So the answer, I love it. Like, incarnation also, we contribute to the work of creation. So if you're, I don't know if you had any religion before here, but when we hear Jesus talking about his kingdom, when he was about to die, and he was getting persecuted by Pilates, right? The question by him. And he's like, he said, if this was my kingdom, this was not, if this was my kingdom, this would not happen to me. Meaning, if the world was what they claimed that he was the king of, he would not be treated that way. So look in here, the work of creation. We're the one that creates the world that we live in. So the choices that we make, and in there, he's talking about if this world was really, if I was the king of this world, this would not be happening. And look at what Jesus taught everybody. To take care of each other, to be just, understand each other, help those that are in need without judgment. So we're going to be part of that creation. So the things that we choose, the purpose of our incarnation, it's the stuff that we're going to choose is going to create on this world. So it made me think about what are the stuff that I want for this world. And I was presenting this Monday in Portuguese, and a story came to me when I started coming to the center. I like studying. So I was studying Nossa Casa as well. Some of you I know already study it as well. And Nossa Casa, pretty much you had food, a house, a place to live, and work also if you want it. And so you have your basic needs met in there. You have a safe place, and you have food if you need it. So the basic needs were fulfilled in there. And also you had the opportunity to study as well. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could go to a place where I could just study all the time, learn this thing that I was learning here, Spiritism. So after a couple of months, after I said that, I realized that I was already doing that. This place was already providing that to me because I was enrolled on every workshop, every class. I actually wanted to be in 2 classes at the same time, like one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. So I was already doing it. And it made me think, the word of creation, so this place created that space that I was able to live that way. So imagine if we created that outside, not just here at the center. I bet all of you feel the energy of this place, like how we feel welcomed here, like we're a huge family, and that we can talk about issues that we would never talk with some other people or another place. So that could be the work of our creation. We're co-creating this world. So it made me think a lot of like the choices that I make, how to treat each other, and the place that I want to be. And at the end of it, the last sentence in there, they contribute to the great good while also achieving their own perfection. It reinforces that idea for me, because while I'm contributing for that creation, I'm also learning, you know. The perfection that was presented on the previous chapter, it was about moral perfection as well, how we treat each other. So in there, it made me think about all of those things in there. So question 133, is incarnation necessary for spirits who have followed the right path from the beginning? Answer, all spirits are created simple and unaware and learn through the trials and tribulations of corporeal life. God is just. Our Creator could not create some spirits happy without their having experienced pain or without their having made an effort. In other words, without any merit. That will be a second part for this. Again, it just reinforces what was presented on the last question. We're created simple and unaware, ignorant, you would say, on the, like as it was presented before as well. And we're learned through this corporeal life. So again, the answer is saying the same thing. Do you want to say something? Yes.
Yeah, I was just, something that helped me because I had trouble when I read this ignorant spirit. And I was, for many years, I'm like,
yes.
And then studying. Something that helped me was like ignorant because I ignore the spiritual, my spiritual life, my spiritual experience. I ignore that there are more subtle emotions. Like for instance, when I am not compassionate, I ignore that compassion, now studied by science, is something that is so good. So what helped me with that to overcome
change that meaning.
It was just I ignore a better states of mind and emotions. Maybe it will be helpful to it.
Yeah, I think about that too. Like, and we see that a lot in the Spirit's book. The meaning of the words, like how the spirits. We're gonna see in here those questions as well. That we're not able sometimes to understand what the spirits are trying to tell us, because the words that we know, what are the meanings of them? Ignorant. It could be somebody that is rude, doesn't treat people well. And also, it could be the person that is not aware, ignoring things. So it depends on how we read it, what I'm going to read out of that. So it's a good point. So Kardec has a second question for this one, which is, so what do spirits gain by following the right path, since they are not exempt from the suffering of corporeal life? Answer, they reach their goals more quickly. Pain and suffering in the physical life is often a consequence of the spirit's imperfection. The fewer the imperfections, the less it suffers. If a spirit is neither envious, jealous, greedy, nor ambitious, it is not forced to experience the torture that is a consequence of those flaws. So, because of all imperfections, that's the cause of our suffering. And I like it here because he puts all those vices, like we're envious, we're jealous, we're greedy, the ambition, that's going to cause us suffering when we're comparing, judging each other, you know, instead of sharing. One thing that I like in here, that actually I want to point out, I didn't notice that in Portuguese, but the pain and suffering, there is a difference between pain and suffering. We have a physical body where we're gonna get damaged. The body's gonna get damaged. We're gonna damage ourselves. The pain, it's hard to avoid the pain, but the suffering can be changed. If I know that my body is gonna go through aging, is a natural process, and that will cause more fatigue. If I don't eat well, if I don't exercise, I'm one doing those two things, that will cause some suffering in me and pain. It causes pains as well. But I should change some of the change, like exercising more. I could exercise more and I could eat healthier, but I'm still not able to do that. But I know that this is a thing with my body, like some of the choices that I make. So right now, I can still feel some of those pains, like being tired. I'm going to go to. But my suffering changed. Before I would judge myself too much. Like, no, I have to do it. I have to change right away. I'm trying to do those changes, and I couldn't. So I was suffering because of like how I treated myself that way. Now I'm feeling more strength to slowly change that process. So the suffering part in that reduced for me. That's my personal experience in there. Yes, you had a question?
I was going to say something. I guess you gave the answer. Because we don't have to have pain and suffering. We choose that on the way we live.
The way we live, yes.
But as soon as we understand why we have this kind of life and we improve our ways, that begins, it should disappear.
It will, yeah. But the pain, when we get older, what's going to happen with our body?
Well, the conscious.
Yeah, and I know, conscious, like, but I wanted to show that the pain, it's harder to avoid than the suffering. Yes?
But this is saying that the pain and suffering is often a consequence of the spirit's imperfection.
Yes.
Now, everyone has different imperfections or lack of. Not everybody is imperfect. So how can you judge whether it's by imperfection or by aging?
We could look. It's natural, for example. We know that we get older, calcium in our body reduces absorption of it. That will weaken our bones. So we're more prone if we fall.
What weakens our bones?
The bones, some nutrients that calcium, calcium, yeah. So it will weaken our bones. So the stuff that we used to do, that we do now, like I can talk about my grandma. She is so independent. She goes everywhere, take the buses in Brazil and all of that. But now she's 86 or 87 right now. When she does that, she tries to do the same pace, and she ends up falling. And like she hurt herself. The recovery, it was way harder than my nephew had a surgery on his knee, and he was 6, and the recovery was way faster. So the physical life in here, we have that in there. We know that already in medicine, yes.
But you mentioned about the moral pain and suffering, not physical.
Yeah, that's why I was saying suffering. Because suffering, it's more of that, like the stuff that I, like, you know, the jealous, the envious, the greedy, and the ambitions, that will cause that suffering, you know. And then we can feel the pain because of that. We feel the pain of that as well, yes.
There are some studies that shows, you know, unfortunately I don't remember, but there's a lot of studies that shows even when we have those characteristics, affects the cells of your body. You know, the cells that mitochondria, etc.
I had meningitis and what was the other one? Pneumonia when I was 6. I was hospitalized for a month. For me, it was fun. I was hanging out, like when I had pneumonia, I was in the room with all the kids. We were having fun, we were singing in there. And, you know, even though I remember feeling the pain, I had no suffering there. But when I went to high school and I was studying those diseases, I was like, oh my God, I was afraid. You know, I was afraid for myself when I was 6, you know. And I was like, I'm not 6 anymore. I'm not 6 anymore. Why am I suffering and afraid of that? You know, I already went through that. You know, so at that time, when I went my mind through that, I was feeling this, I was suffering right in there, even though I didn't have any pain and it already passed. So I chose at that point to go back in there. But I like the Spirit's book because it makes me think about all those things. So like the purpose of incarnation, we saw before, it's for us to perfect ourselves, to help, to co-create in this world, and achieve our own advancements by living here. So what's the best stuff that I can bring? You know, one thing that I'm doing right now, it's on strength psychology. It's looking at my talents, what I'm good at. I already do it without even thinking. And then improving on that and using that more, you know, so creating more. And with that, I'll advance myself while doing all of that, creating, and then go through those difficulties is going to teach me something. So what I got from those two questions, that's the purpose of, like, at least for me, you know. Okay. Now we go to the soul. Question 134. What is the soul? Answer. An incarnated spirit. A. What was the soul before being united with the body? A spirit. B. Are soul and spirits one of the same thing? Answer. Yes. Souls are spirits. Before joining a body, the soul is one of the intelligent beings living in the invisible world. It assumes a physical body temporarily to complete its purification and enlightenment. So there was a discussion in the introduction of the Spirit's book about the word soul and what it means. And it's based on those answers, of course, from Kardec as well. But there's a nice discussion there about the meaning of the word, and we talked about that. So our soul, it's pretty much just our spirit. It's the same thing. Yes?
I'm sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt you, but Raphael, I also study other stuff, just
Mhm.
to, and I respect those
Yeah.
the other things that I'm studying too. But what I understand, we all have the same divinity.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it, in some books they say soul.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same soul, we are divided
Mm-hmm.
through duality, but at the end we are one, and that one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So the imperfection comes because of the body, because of the life that we live here.
Okay. Remember, okay, that's one thing that I'll point out. It's good that you brought it up, like you studying on other things. So Spiritism, it started like 1857 with Kardec, the experiences that he had with the dancing tables, turning tables, and the spirituality that presented itself in there. I'm really shortening the story. The spirituality presented themselves like, okay, we're superior spirits. Not all the messages that they were receiving are from superior spirits, but we're here to teach you about that part, Spiritism, that later on called Spiritism. And that's why it's called the Spirit's book, because it was the message from those spirits in there. So in here, what I'm using, it's experience, the knowledge that was presented in the Spirit's book. There will be some questions that will touch it in tonight, because Kardec asked about some of the theories and all the discussion that was happening at that time as well, that still happens today. And I really recommend reading the introduction of it. I presented that as well. You can find it on YouTube or Facebook or page. And it has a lot of discussion of that, like pantheism, we come back into God, we just being, some people right now say fractals. I don't know if that's a word in English. Like we divided, we all the same. We all, divided like you said. I don't know what theory or knowledge, like source that you're referring to. That'll be good to look into that. So right now I'm trying to use this chapter, but it's good. It's good to bring the attention in there, because I don't know if this is the absolute truth, if this is the final truth. Right now, this is helping me change, me feel a better person. So right now I'm sticking to this. Actually, outside I'm studying a lot of other stuff, I'll confess to you. But the things that I was doing, the choices that I was making before I started studying Spiritism wasn't working for me. I got to the point that I was having panic attacks. So when I got introduced to Spiritism and I realized how deep it was, the study, I just went with it. So what I do right now is slowly try those ideas that are presented by the spirits. And that's one thing that I like about the Spirit's book, that it's not really a religion, it's a science. And what we do with the science, we do experiments, we try. So the spirits are suggesting us to do something, and it's up to us if we want to try it or not and see the difference. And what I've been in this experience right now, that I've been slowly implementing there, changing the stuff that I can, or just being aware of the changes that I can make or the imperfections that I have, it's helping me a lot. So right now I'm sticking to it. But if the knowledge is real for me personally, if it's like more closer to the truth, whatever the truth is, it's going to be presented everywhere. You know, like some of the stuff here, it's presented in the Bible. Like I refer to one of the things in there. You know, I bring stuff from other places. I'm actually going to, if I get there, when I get there, I'll probably remember it. But there's a progression, let's put it this way. The things that we're learning, for example, the animals, like I try not to eat, I'm trying to reduce eating meat, even though my body wants it, and I eat it, you know, but when I can, I don't eat it. And then even in movies, it's going to show up more in different ways. You know, like I just a little bit spoiled it, the Guardians of the Galaxy. They have that discussion about what is intellectual, you know, an animal, if it's an intelligent being, if it is a being that does have rights and not, you know, has a great discussion in there. And I'm glad that it's coming on other sources as well that may not be even related at all. And if we watch out there, there's several books that will talk about the same thing. All those avatars like Buddha, Mother Teresa, they're saying some of the same stuff. So that's what I think is close to the truth. But it's going to touch on some of the theory, like some of the theories, philosophers, and what they're talking about. But for Spiritism, soul and spirits were the same thing. But the difference is the soul, it's when we incarnated. And when we don't have the body anymore, we're back to the spirit. But at the end, it's interchangeable, both of them in there. So question 135. Is a person made up of anything other than the soul and the body? Answer. The link that unites the soul and the body. A. What is the nature of this link? It is a semi-material. It is the intermediary between the soul and the body. This is required for communication between the soul and the body. The spirit can act upon matter and vice versa through this link. This was introduced in the last chapter as well, the perispirit. You're going to see more about it. That link between the body and the soul, it's the perispirit. I would adventure and say when we see other studies as well, like astral body, spiritual body, that it's related to that body, the perispirit. But Kardec gave the name of perispirit. And then Kardec has a discussion in there. So therefore, human beings are made up of three essential elements. One, the body. I would actually change. One, the soul or incarnated spirit, which is housed in the body. Two, the intermediary principle or perispirit, which is a semi-material substance. It is the innermost envelope of the spirit and unites the soul with the body. This three-part nature is equivalent to that of the fruit, which includes the seed, the perisperm, and the ring or shell. And then we have the body. The body or material being, similar to animals and given life by the same vital principle. The vital principle, there's its own chapter as well, on part 1, by the way. So we're made up of those three parts in there. 136. Is the soul independent of the vital principle? Answer. The body is merely an envelope, as we have repeated multiple times. So the body, it's an envelope of the spirit. Again, the vital principle, it's sort of, I'm going to summarize it, like sort of energy that vitalizes matter. It's presented on chapter 4 of the first part. And he continues, can a body exist without a soul? Answer, yes. However, when the body dies, the soul leaves it. The union between the soul and the body is not complete before birth. But once their union is established, only physical death can break the bond uniting the body and the soul. Organic life may exist in a body without a soul, but the soul cannot live in a body deprived of organic life. And Kardec discusses of that, the organic life being the matter with that vital principle, the combination of those two, that gives us the organic life.
I got stuck on the first line and I couldn't move on.
Oh, the first, like,
Can a body exist without a soul?
yes,
The answer is yes.
yes,
However, when the body dies, the soul
the
lives.
soul lives.
So
Where is,
I don't get the answer. Can a body exist
The body,
without a soul?
they'll be here. What would your body be if you had no soul? A mass of flesh without intelligence, anything you would like to call it except a human being. Does that clarify? So the body would exist as just the matter. It's made of matter, like all the periodic table.
So we don't see it.
No, it exists. The body would stay, but the spirit,
the insane people, like somebody that is lost?
no, it would not. You're not going to call a human being. Go ahead, Hannah, sorry.
Like someone on life support
Yeah.
system in the hospital.
It could be, yeah.
Mhm.
It's already gone.
It's just
Yeah.
maybe not. Maybe it's
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, because the body still
Can
functions.
even come
Yeah.
back if
hmm Yep, that's a good point. The body can exist. There's actually,
A lot of people that near-death experience, NDA books, you find a lot of, including American scientists and doctors and stuff like that, physicians, that have seen people going and coming back, like you said, and they say what they lived as a soul there. And meanwhile, that's what their body is. You know, it's a,
but that usually that spirit's still connected to the body because the body is not dead, so it's still connected to it. And one minute, Renato. I was looking a lot of like just random videos at home, and then it kind of like helps me with this. There was this kid in India that while he was in the womb, like of his mother, had a twin. But the twin, they don't know what happened with the twin, if it died or whatever, but the one that survived absorbed the body. And when the kid was born, he had legs hanging out of his belly. The legs were there, he did not control it. So there is a body, it was attached to his brothers, it was attached in there, it was just hanging in there. It was not a human being, it was just a body without a soul. And the kid that was alive had no control of it. He has like 4 limbs, like the legs and the legs hanging. So he had no control of it. He went through surgery and removed it. So for me, that would be an example of that. He just had a body, but there was no soul in there.
But if it is removed, you're talking about the parts being removed. From where? From who? From the boy.
From the boy that was alive, yeah.
Right, but the boy has a soul, so I don't think.
But he doesn't control the limbs.
True,
This is not
true,
part of him.
but he can control himself.
He controlled himself. His body was there, but he has an extra attachment from the other brother.
Right.
But the other brother's soul or spirit, it's not in there.
What about if it wasn't twins? They were only one person before me.
Oh, they did ultrasounds. They had to, and one of them died. Yeah,
Yeah.
throughout the development. Yeah,
Yeah, for me, it's right.
yes. No, that's good. Yes, Renato.
you mentioned science, there's a case that they were testing the DNA of a person, and they found 2 different sets of DNA in the same
person, yeah.
So they come to the conclusion that there were twins that merged into one person.
Yeah.
They fuse it together.
Like the heart
Yeah.
was from individual A, the legs were from individual B. That is something that isn't like a debate in the Vatican, because is there one soul or 2 souls in that body? Because there's 2 complete DNAs in one body.
The DNA is not.
Somebody mentioned on Monday. Sorry.
DNA is part of the body.
Yeah, DNA is part of the body. Somebody was mentioned like Siamese twins. They have 2 different personalities. Even some of them, like depending on the case, one control one limb and the other control the other ones. So you see that there's a different, like there's 2 souls in there. And there's the body is divided, and they can divide it into 2 different beings in there. It's good. Question 137. Can the same spirit incarnate 2 different bodies at the same time? Answer, no. The spirit cannot be divided and cannot live in 2 different bodies at the same time. So a body alive, so that was the theory of like lovers that they have like divided souls when they unite, they get together. Imagine Sue and I, we're one soul, but when we incarnated separate, then we met each other here. We're like soulmates. No, that doesn't happen. Like she's her individual and I'm the individual. When we united, we're not just one soul, right? So 138, what should we think about some people's opinion that the soul is the principle of the material life? Answer, this is a matter of words to which we import very little importance. Before anything else, you should come to an agreement among ourselves. So the spirits didn't talk about anything that let guys decide it. 139, some spirits and some philosophers before them have defined the soul as an animated spark emanating from the great whole. What is the cause of this contradiction? Answer, there is no contradiction. It depends on the meaning and attribute of certain words. Why does your language not have a word for each thing? So this is a part of it that is like our language is poor. So here saying that the soul, it's an animated spark emanating from the great whole. We saw before in chapter 1 of the first book that we are creations from God. So if the great whole, it's God, there's no contradiction. We were created from them. So, and the poor language, yes.
In my opinion, that's why experiencing our spirit and our spirituality is so important because our words are so limiting. Our thoughts are so limited.
Yeah.
And then when we have those transcendental experiences, we can feel things that we cannot describe.
We cannot describe at all, yeah.
Sometimes we even have dreams, right, that we cannot, I don't know what to say.
We can go back for the first question of today. What's the purpose of the soul? We'll live to experience it, Even though we have imperfections, it doesn't matter. We're going to learn on the first chapter, Spirits, from the second part. It talks about we're going to go through all the stages, all of us. We're going to learn everything. So,
For evolution.
yeah, the progress, it's called the progress of spirits. We're going to all go through it.
One harder than the other, but
Yeah, but it's through our choice, but it's still, we're all going to get there. So there's no need of judgment. We're here to help each other that way. 140. What should we think of the theory that the soul is subdivided into as many parts as there are muscles in the body, each rolling over a bodily function? Answer, it still depends on the meaning attributed to the word soul. If you equate the soul with the vital fluid, that theory is correct. If the word is used to express the incarnate spirit, it is wrong. We said that a spirit cannot be divided. Therefore, movement is transmitted to the organs through the intermediary fluid without even dividing itself. All the same, there are spirits who have given this definition. Answer, ignorant, unaware spirits often mistake the effect by the cause. So having that part, the effect by the cause, and it goes back to one of the questions as well about like if the spirit or the soul, it's the beginning of the life, material life. So in here, they have the soul being divided into different parts, but it depends on the definitions that we have for each one of them. But they already told us that we cannot be divided. So what is actually controlling those different parts of our body? It's one, us, yes.
In that line says, we said that the spirit cannot be divided.
Yes.
But a spirit can be in different places at the same time and can be manifested through different media at the same time.
Yes, we'll touch a little bit on that later. You're okay if I wait until we get to the answer, to that question?
I'm sorry.
We're going to get to a question that will touch that point. Do you mind if I just get it when we get there? But it's a good question, yes. 141. Is there any truth to the belief that the soul is outside the body or surrounds it? Answer. The soul is not locked inside the body, like a bird in a cage. It radiates in all directions. It manifests itself outside the body as light irradiates from a glass globe, or as sound emanates from a loudspeaker. In this case, the soul can be understood as being outside the body, but it does not envelop the body. The soul has two envelopes. The perispirit, which is first, innermost envelope, being light and subtle in nature, and the other one is the body, which is crude, material, and heavy. The soul is the center of both of these envelopes, like a nut in its shell. And as we have already explained. So I'm here right now, right? I'm the body, and my perispirit, it's here within me. My soul, it's here, the center of it, but it radiates. So we see that idea on auras. You know, when we feel the energy of each other, my soul is having the energy. We're able to feel it. And remember when I explained that the perispirit is semi-material, the envelope is semi-material? That can be elastic as well. It can express in different forms. So I would say in that way we could be seen in different parts as well, different places of the same well, because my body can be here, but an extension of my perispirit could be in there. But it doesn't mean that I'm divided into two places. I'm not divided into two beings. Part of me, it's there, connected with it. And the experience of near-death experience, for me, taught me a lot of that. The body stays here, but either my perispirit or astral body left the experience, or just my soul. We learn later on about the mental body, or just my mental body goes. You know, so I can be presented in different places. Throughout the study of mediumship, they have, what is called desdobramento, Cynthia, in English?
Desdobramento is the astral projection.
Astral projection, yeah. So astral projection, it's that. The spirit leaving the body to do something else. And I talked with people that are able to do that. I actually had a little experience of that myself, that I was in two places at the same time. I have memories of two places at the same time, which is totally weird.
But is that consciously?
Yes, I was actually driving, and then I was going to North Carolina. My goddaughter was in the back seat sleeping. I was going to visit my brother, and suddenly I felt the presence of a cousin of mine that passed away. And I started crying. And then he was like, oh, Raphael, you know, it's okay. And then like a screen, for me, that I can explain, a screen opened up on the right side. And then we went inside. But I have memories of inside that screen in a different place with him and driving. While I was driving, I was crying like Chris. I was like, ooh, like the ugly cry, you know, like they have like tears, mucus, yeah. So I was like crying, but in there I was totally fine. Actually, when he showed me stuff that he was a kid, I was a kid. Both of us were a kid. And then when it was things that he was telling me that was more a grown-up thing, we're both adults. He had two children that my cousin and my aunt was taking care of them, so he was thanking them a lot for it. I got to North Carolina, I'll just tell the whole story. So I got to North Carolina, and I called my mother in Brazil. I was like crying, exhausted, like mentally, emotionally exhausted. And I told her everything, and then she said, you need to tell your aunt. I was like, I can't. You there, tell her, I already told you. And then she's like, you know what day is tomorrow, like this weekend? I was like, no. It's like, if he was alive, he was gonna be 31. And your aunt is really, really sad. And that helped her. For me, it was weird. Like now I stopped, like I'm glad that happened. But at that time, it was so weird. If I remember like vividly. I don't need to close my eyes, like see the screen in here and the stuff inside there. It's a weird feeling. Like Cynthia said, it's hard to explain. There's no way to explain. But this helped me understand it. Like studying this helped me understand it. So it was, but even though I explained, the feeling it's different. Like being able to be crying and like completely unaware of that at the same time.
And go back
That-
to childhood and
Yeah, and like my body look at me and I'm a children again, like a child again, and then like I'm adult. Like, it was weird, but this made me understand it, like studying those things. Question 142. What should we think of the theory that the soul of a child is completed during each period of human life? Answer. There is only one spirit, and it is whole in both children and adults. The bodily organs, which serve as an instrument of manifestation of the soul, are gradually enveloped and completed. Again, you mistake the effect for the cause. So he's asking, like, about the theory that as we grow, our spirit's imperfect, but as we grow older, the spirit gets more complete. But I like the effect and the cause that he mentioned in here again. The spirit, the soul, it's complete the whole time, but the body, it's the one that is developing. So because of that, it looks like we are imperfect, but in reality, the soul, it's complete with all its function, but the body is the one that it's developing to get to that point. So the body is the cause, but the soul is the effect in there. 143. Why do spirits have different definitions of the term soul? Answer. All spirits are not equally enlightened in regard of this matter. Some spirits are not so advanced intellectually. They are incapable of digesting abstract concepts. They are like children in your world. Other spirits are false scholars and ineffectively use words to impose their authority upon others. They also resemble many individuals in other worlds. Even spirits who are truly enlightened may express themselves in terms that on the surface appears to be different, but at heart they actually means the same thing. This is especially true in regard to matter that our language fails to accurately express, and that can only be conveyed through figures and comparisons, and you in turn misinterpret as reality. So, like we talked before, the term soul, it's different. The way, like the more we learn, the more we grow, we develop that idea. And when we make agreement on what it means, we're able to use it in a better way. And that's the thing that it's really good exemplified in the introduction part 2 of the Spirit's book, when he discuss about the soul. I really recommend you guys to go in there. But it's pretty much that. Let's define what it is. Let's have a discussion. Let's see what other theories talk about it. Let's see what information they have about it. Let's compare it. So when we can compare and talk about it, we'll understand better each other. And talking about the false scholars and all of it, that's a reference to the first chapter of this part of the book. 144. What should we understand of the concept called the soul of the world? Answer. It is the universal principle of life and intelligence from which individual spirits are born. People often use these terms without truly knowing what they mean. The word soul is so variable that everyone interprets it according to their own perceptions or ideas. Sometimes a soul is attributed to the earth, which must be understood as indicating the collection of devoted spirits who give you proper guidance when you listen to them, and who are God's deputies in your world. So again, he's bringing all those theories and philosophies that exist and questioning the spirits about it, and then getting the intake from it. But again, it talks again the definition of soul, what is our definition, you know. But again, it shows that, do you see how it changes depending on our perception or ideas? What is that? Or what is that really? Our perceptions, the ideas, the experiences that we have, the knowledge that we have, what we went through. So each one of us, we went through different things. So we're gonna have different perceptions and ideas. 145. How have so many philosophers from both ancient and modern times discussed psychological questions for so long without arriving at the truth? Answer. Those persons were the predecessors of Spiritism. They have paved the way to others. They were subject to errors and often mistook their own ideas for true light because we are human beings. But these same errors have served truly by showcasing the pros and cons of the argument. Additionally, there are many truths among these errors that a comparative study would reveal to you. So when we incarnated here, our perception is limited. We don't have that perception of spirit. It's hard for us to understand that we have many lives. Really hard for me to understand, like actually perceive it as for right now. But imagine without the body, how my perception will be. I'm experiencing it at that moment. So I can make some mistakes while I'm here right now because I'm limited to this perception that I have right now, the ideas that I have on this life right now. So the same thing happens with the philosophers right now. That's one of the older philosophers in there. But because of that discussion, they're able to improve and gives us great knowledge. And us discussing it right now, those theories as well, it's helping us improve and get a better understanding of that. 146, does the soul have a fixed center in the body? Answer, no. But it is said to reside in the head among people of great intellect and prolific thinkers, while it is said to reside in the heart of people who are sentimental and possessive of more humanitarian nature. So it's trying to define where the soul would be really attached to the body. We already saw that it radiates, so it's not in a place itself. But in here, what I can get from here, it's what are the stuff that I pay attention to the most, what I give more importance. If I'm a person that is more intellectual, more of a thinker, where will I be thinking the most? Where I'll be perceiving the most? It's in my brain. So I will be in my brain, like me, soul, I will be more in there. But if I work with my heart, it will be more close to it. That's what we do on meditation, one of the things that we do in meditation, trying to get out of our heads all the problems, all those ideas that are not necessary, yes. And one of the techniques that we do, we pay attention to different parts of our bodies, trying to get out of there, to be able to get in contact with ourselves the most, so moving around within ourselves as well. He continues in there, what should we think of the opinion that the soul is in some vital center? Answer, that is to say that the spirit may reside in this spot in this body because it is where all sensations meet. However, those who place it in what they consider the center of vitality mistake it for the vital fluid or principle. In any case, the soul has a stronger presence in organs that are moral and intellectual indicator. So he continues to show that the soul will be more present in there, but again, while we're paying attention. We're paying attention to more of those, so it would be more in there. But it's everywhere, it moves. This is a part, it's a good, because it goes straight to materialism, not that idea of money, that it is everything, but materialism, that idea, the matter, it's what is more important. We've been talking about the soul, the spirit being more important makes us, not me more important, being the primary cause of the things that we live, we're spiritualists because of that. We believe more in the spirit. But if we think that the cause, it's the matter, because the sperm and the egg got together, and that's what created the life, not the soul that got attached in there. If we think that the union of those gametes would be the creation of life, we would be materialists. thinking of the matter. So it gave the idea in there of we got stuck on that part. So Kardec is questioning in there because he sees that spirits are presenting things for us. It's really good in the movie Kardec, which is on Netflix. It's a Brazilian movie, and it shows in there, like, imagine a table answering. We know that the table doesn't have a heart or a brain, legs to move, and suddenly they're giving us knowledge, so it's how we got Spiritism. But anyways, I'm going there. Question 147. Why do anonymous physiologists and those who study natural sciences generally accept materialism? Answer. Physiologists related everything to their senses. Human pride fancies knowing everything and refuses to admit that there are things that transcend human intelligence. Science itself even spawns arrogance, since scientists think that nature can hide nothing from them. So again, because we're taking, like we saw before, the effect by cause, so the senses, the stuff that we sense as being the real thing that created, like the body or the soul, will be, if we think that the body is the creation of it, will be as materialism. But there are things that we cannot explain. I'm pretty sure all of you had some experience in there. It makes you come here. Yes?
I find it interesting that most of scientists, they are materialists, and they are the ones that most contribute to the advancement of humanity, to our evolution as a species. And personally, like, some of my best friends, they're atheists. They're wonderful people. So that question there, for me, there is something a little bit of discriminatory to, I think, okay, I respect my atheist friends as they respect me as a believer. We're in different paths, but in the same direction.
One thing that I would mention, that this was in the 1800s, so it's a different time as well. Now, at that time too, there are people that are worried about their spirituality. They went to that way. It's getting more popular now, all those ideas. So we're more aware of that, and it's now we think more of that. It will be in a different way, but also we've been thinking of, as a spiritualist. If I think about reincarnation, for example, we've been living a spirit, like we lived all the experiences as like Catholics, Protestants, and all of that. So we've done something wrong. We see in history, like I got out of the church. I was raised Catholic, and I got out of the church because I saw all those differences in what they say and what they actually do. And I think about my experiences on that as well. If I had a life, yeah, it's getting late, right? Yeah, sorry. If I had a life that I was in there, I would really reject that life right now because I created a trauma back in there. So right now, I refuse all the religions. There was a time that I refused religion. But I still believed in something. I believed in God, but I did not believe in the God the church presented for me, And some people, and at that time, I was that way too. I was worried about other things that I wasn't, other people didn't worry. People at church are worried, but they say all those things, the arrogance that, I do have that too, but the hypocrisy, that's the word that I wanted to have. That bothered me in there, because we're saying something, we're doing something else. But I can have, if I'm my own spirit and I have a progression, I may learn something, but right now, I do not need to be in the religious setting to practice all of that. Inside of me, I know that there's more of it, but right now what I'm presenting, it's something that doesn't believe on that. I have friends that I talk to her about Spiritism at work. She doesn't believe on anything. She say, I'm fully materialist, the body dies and that's the end of it. But we walk in the park, she's the one grabbing the garbage and putting it away, holding it and putting it away, I'm here talking with her about spirituality, that will continue when we come back. She's the one doing it, like really doing a work that would change it. I wasn't, so it's our experiences in there. But this brings our attention to those points as well, like having that discussion. We're the ones studying it, not them. And the last question of tonight, 148, is it unfortunate that materialism is a consequence of scientific studies that should, quite the contrary, show people the superiority of divine intelligence that govern the world? Should we conclude that those who embrace those studies are dangerous? Answer, no. Materialism, rather than being a consequence of those studies, is a false result arrived by individuals who have drawn incorrect conclusions. Those conclusions cause errors in perception and distort practically everything, including the best things. The idea of nothingness perplexes them more than they let on, and those who proclaim the materialistic conviction the loudest are more often than not brash rather than brave. Most materialists only cling to this belief because they have nothing in which to fill the void. Draw a firm line to those who only see a gaping void before them, and they will grasp it eagerly. It just made the example, like when we are in a bad situation, if we're materialistic, we're spiritualists, like we're Catholic, whatever religion we are, anything that we believe, what was the first thing that we actually do when we get to those situations? We end up praying, asking for God, that God help me or something. So, inside of us, we know it, I think. So that was all the questions that I have for us today. I know I passed the time, like a lot of it, but if you guys want to read more about it, we have books here that you can buy as well, but you can go to Kardecpedia. There is an app on the phone, like they're in all this language, Portuguese, French, English, Spanish, German, Italian, Russian, Japanese, Chinese. So I love that they have all those languages. It's free, the app, you can have it on your phone, easy to access, and we can talk more about it as well here. On Wednesdays, they have a class in Portuguese right before here. So next time that I'm here, I'm going to be talking about the return from corporeal to the spirit. So first we saw the spirit, right? We saw the incarnation. And now we're going to see when we come back from the corporeal life to the spirit world. Any last question, comments? I know it's late. Okay, I hope you guys understand a little bit more, and it can definitely help me see things differently. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.